Welcome, everybody. It is my great pleasure to welcome you at the Inspireli Live Talk number 11. Today's topic is modern Asian architecture as we continue to explore the pockets of world architecture and learn more about what's specific to each of the countries. Last time we had a meeting with African professors and architects, and they introduced the topics of their challenges, their architecture specific for each of the countries in Africa. It was super interesting with lots of really amazing information and beautiful visualizations. So we are definitely in a lot of excitement about today's Asian architecture. We are really honored to have wonderful guests here with us. We have 4 architects from different countries. We have representatives of Malaysia, Hong Kong, Japan, and South Korea. So first, let me introduce myself. My name is Mariana Vahalova. I am your host as usually, and I am the Inspireli Education Manager. Here with me today, let me introduce our guests. First one is Mr. Rian Chong, who is a Director, TKCA Design Associate Private Limited, and he is representing Malaysia. Next one here with us is Vicky Chang, who is a founder of Avoid Obvious Architects, founder of Architecture for Children, chairman of WOG DDRC, and he is a former AIA Hong Kong president from years 20 to 21. He is representing Hong Kong as well as USA here. The third here with us, third guest is Mr. Ryusuke Kozio, who is a licensed architect in Japan, Germany, and APEC, adjunct assistant professor in National University of Singapore, general manager, design and global solutions at Takenaka Corporation, Asian Region International Department, and he will be representing Japan. Last guest here with us is Mr. Bae Byung-kil. He is a state architect, Gyeongsang-bugdo president, and Bae Byung-kil architect and urban design associate. He is representing South Korea. As usually, we also have Karel Smejkal here with us, who is the co-founder and the president of Inspireli, and he is also an Eastern Europe, AIA Eastern Europe director at the AIA Continental Europe. So I would like to welcome you all here. Again, we are super honored you are here with us. Thank you for taking time, because we know it's pretty late in Asia or where you are. There is about 6 to 7 hours difference, so it's evening. But welcome here, and I would like to give word to Karel to introduce a little bit of our topic and say a few words.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Mariana. Good evening, my guest, or our guest, and good afternoon in Czech Republic. Good morning in America. I'm very proud that we are doing such a great events, and this time we are hosting 2 organizations together. One is Inspireli, it's a students platform, student support, and the second one is AIA, American Institute of Architects. And this year I am in a board of AIA Continental Europe, and it's a big pleasure to join us together, young students, the upcoming generation, together with the professionals. And because we are already in touch with AIA for already, I think that more than 3 years, all winners or finalists of Inspireli Awards, they received the AIA recognition. So I think that it's a good start to do such a nice educational meetings. And I have to thanks to Vicky Chen, because he was at the beginning the contestant of our competition, and then he became to be a juror, and then he became to be a president of AIA in Hong Kong. So that's why it was really easy to contact him and to establish this really nice event. And I would like to invite here, of course, Barry, because Barry Wetmore, she is a board member as me in AIA Continental Europe, and she will then give me a feedback how to go on with this with this start of communication of those two organizations. So I'm really happy that you are here, all of you, and let's enjoy it. It's a student platform, so we can talk openly after your presentation. Mariana, you can go on.
Thank you, Karel. Yes, welcome everybody. We are slowly getting more and more people on the Zoom because we also invited our long-year friend, Mr. Ernest Stefani, who's a professor at the Tirana University, who is also invited his students. So there'll be probably more people popping in. And at the end of the presentations, you are more than welcome to ask questions, whatever interests you, to either of our members who will be presenting. So I think it might be time to get right into it. So I would like to ask our first guest, Mr. Rientan. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the specifics of architecture in your country? What's it like in Malaysia, if there are any challenges, and then show some of your wonderful visualizations.
All right. Good evening to all the Asian era, and good morning and good afternoon to others people. Thanks for invitation, and I would like to share about our country design, mostly on Asian country. Basically, Malaysia is a tropical climate country where we don't have 4 seasons. We only have 2 main seasons, which is rainy season and a dry season. So our design had to be very tropical in such a way that we had to cater for rainwater and also on the hot and humid climate. That's why you will see my design on the project later on, where we design pitch roof, large overhang, places where we can harvest water for sustainable design, which is a wide topic that everyone is doing it now. And you won't see so much of 4-season design like, the thicker wall that other countries do, and how do you avoid for snow and etc. Because in Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, we don't have 4 seasons. There's no snow here. So we don't have to design for that particular season. So later on, my first few projects, you will see how we should integrate climate, first thing. Second is the culture into the building. Now, looking into this first image that you see, this is Malaysia, or I would say Asia, first esports center that is located at a sport arena. So the surrounding area is surrounded by all the sport activity, like we have stadium, we have park. What we do here is we try to allow people to go into this esport arena where people playing games. We try to combine virtual and physical activity in one particular area, which is the trend of the future. So one thing that we do here is not just on physical architecture, but we also look into the virtual, the future architecture that we should implement too. And I believe all the students or the other architects should also look into it. Future architect, how do we incorporate the technology as well as maintaining the sustainable architecture in our own country? So this is the first project that we are showing here. And we're trying to do different step level of the building. You can see a lot of contour. We try to maintain the existing site contour, where you can see it's a bit like mountain area because the site used to be a mountain-ish area. So by doing this kind of design, we somehow resemble and bring back the site history of what this so-called a park is. So everyone can come here and enjoy the park. At the same time, they can enjoy the virtual architecture, which is the so-called esports arena. People playing gaming, you have drones flying around and things like that. Now with the second project on the next picture here, this is actually a high-rise project. Now in an Asian country, we are considered a third world country where we are still developing. Population is increasing. Apart from having landed property or landed housing, high-rises condominium apartment is very, very much developed in town area, particularly in city like Kuala Lumpur, where I'm stationing now. So this is one of the high rises. This is one picture. It's supposed to be a lot of high rises. So this is one picture that we're trying to show you how we integrate the so-called landed housing design into a high-rise building. We try to bring back the tropical architecture language where we have a pitched roof. You have the building around it. When you search Malaysia house, you search Asia house, you will see a lot of the roof design is a pitch design where it helped to let the rainwater drain down to the earth or into the harvesting tank. Okay, so that's why most of the building is like this. But along the way, when our culture or our technology evolve, we are doing high rise. So people will start to forget about culture or climates. You know, when you see high rise, there's no pitched roof, there's all flat roof and etc. So what we do here is we introduce this communal living area. The small pitched roof or this bund area is a facilities room. You have your core living space, you have your retails, you have your kindergarten over there. So along the way, when you grow up, okay, your younger kids or your younger generation, they will still remember what is happening back then. Instead of you see all the future city, you know, all the high rises, tower flying around, they will still see their own culture, their identity, their background. Even though our country, our nation, the whole world is developing, we cannot stop this. So what we do is we try to bring back the identity of our culture, of our nation. The next project, which is a small project that I would really want to emphasize on, is on the landed housing that Malaysia or Asia country is doing. So again, what we do here is we try to adapt to the culture and the nature and the climate here. So you will see this pitched roof all around our country, and particularly in our design. In this project, what we do here is we divided a small bungalow lot to 2 wings. Why? Because this project is recently completed where we want to cater for the issue of COVID-19. So the left wing is kind of like isolation cabin, where if some of them get COVID, you know, they need to quarantine themselves, they will stay over there. Whereas your family member, they can still stay at the other wing. So this is one of the design consideration that we have evolved from due to the pandemic that we are happening now. So one of the things that we do in Malaysia here, apart from addressing the climate, the culture, the identity from all the 2 projects I mentioned just now, the third thing that we want to address would be the latest trend, or I would say the trend of our design. What we can do as architect towards this pandemic or any future disturbance that might, you know, causes us to have different style of living. So one thing that we do here is to look into the potential of exploring different design while we still maintain the culture, the identity, and to adapt to our climate, which is a tropical, humid area. So that is about the 3 main projects that we are sharing here from Malaysia. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you. That was super interesting and really beautiful visualizations and projects that you have there. It was very complete information, especially including the weather in it, which I imagine is the big thing, big characteristic of how you design. So I'm wondering if that's kind of similar in Hong Kong. So Vicky, can you please share with us what's the experience like in Hong Kong and what are your projects?
Yeah, here in Hong Kong, we live in a very dense urban center. We in Hong Kong, although we have a lot of like green space, 70% of the city in Hong Kong is still considered a country park. But in the urban area, near all these high rises that we have in Hong Kong, people are still very, trying to find rooms for parks, find rooms for public spaces. So the project that I'm going to share with you are dealing with a very similar idea about how do we actually implement public spaces in this very urban area of Hong Kong. So the first project I'm going to share with you is actually trying to look at our road, maybe I will actually go backward. I'm going to go with the bigger scale, and then I'm going to move backward. So we learned a lot about high rises in Hong Kong, and some of the Hong Kong developers are trying to take this ideology into a different country. In this case, we took it to Canada. So we are also telling them that you see in these images, there are a lot of houses. They build a lot of single-story houses in Canada. So we were pitching to the local government in Canada that there are different ways to actually look at design and look at different ways to live together. So if we were going to expand certain sectors for businesses in the city, we believe that by building a lot of flat horizontal building for offices doesn't really work anymore in North America. So here in Canada, we are kind of taking what we learned about high-rise design in Hong Kong and kind of adapted in Canada. But along with it, a bunch of sustainable idea, public space making. In the center of it is a market that we're trying to tie all the farmers together. Next, the center of this spaces again is about funding this high density of people, but at the same time places where they can use food as a medium to connect using farmers market, place for farmers to do businesses. Next one. And the use of local material from Canada also kind of evident throughout this design and rendering. But at the same time, the central market was really a place about people. How do we actually use buildings, high rise, around us to form this public courtyard that are both welcoming to people, but at the same time celebrating local culture, from architecture to different use of wooden material. Next. And at the same time, throughout the project, water conservation and other stuff was also quite evident for us to really try to not only control the microclimate, but at the same time, finding a way to make gray water recycling, rainwater collection, to finding a way to reduce fresh water to be an integrated part of the landscape design. Next. So moving back into this idea in Hong Kong, so like I mentioned, Hong Kong, you can see in this background of these images, right? It's a very dense urban center with a lot of high rises. So one of the recent completed project we have is to actually insert an urban farm in the middle of the city. So this urban farm is not just about production of farm produce, but it's about bringing in organic, sustainable idea in the middle of the city. It's not only sustainable in the sense of food and greenery, but it's sustainable in terms of mental health. Throughout COVID, people living in a high rise get very, very stressful. They wanted to go out, but because of different COVID scenario that we have in Hong Kong, you can't really go out too far. You can't really go to a restaurant. We had limitation, but going to the farm was actually quite open because it's open space, is considered very safe. So during COVID, this farm actually bring a lot of joy to people. It really become a mental release a farm. At one point, this was we changed a lot of species throughout. This was actually vegetables. So the next one we had was actually sunflower. So people were actually running around my maze of farm in this sunflower pattern. So it was actually a fantastic thing to see. And then people told us that they really, really found it to be very relaxing. Next one. So we have another, this image got a little distorted, but the inside our greenhouse, we have different type of farming technology, right? Like I mentioned, in Hong Kong, the land is very limited. So we're trying to actually produce different type of farm species, but in almost an urban setting. So in this proposal, we have a very high-tech, very technological driven greenhouse, that are actually growing hydroponic plant in a very controlled climate, controlled humidity environment. So we were able to actually put a lot of smart technology in here to control the amount of species that we grow. When are we going to harvest them? So in some way, we're actually telling all the people in the city that back then they had this mentality that farm is very difficult. Farm will be very, it takes a lot of hard work, and they do. But we're also sending a message that they now become very scientific. You could actually grow farm in a very comfortable way, right? It still takes hard work, but this condition is in an air-conditioned environment where we could be growing like imported species, but locally, for the people to enjoy. Next one. So not only the organic farm that we have, but also aquaponic, right? Finding a way to actually tie into some old technology, but using aquaponic to kind of like feed whatever produce we have from the farm. We feed it into the fish. The fish, when they generate their own soil, we feed them back to the farm. So that was a very interesting way for us to tie like the whole ecosystem of fish, farm species, all the way to the greenhouse. So this farm is not a way to only like insert a lot of like mental relief, sustainable thinking, but at the same time, it was also a new way to test a ecosystem that could actually coexist with the rest of the city. And next one. And in some way, the greenhouse also become a very interesting type of light show. We don't turn on the light all the time, but the light become a very interesting like experiment for people to kind of enjoy as they kind of like walk around our park. So the park is on one hand you see fish, plant everywhere, but on the other hand you also see some like very technology-driven design to understand the future of farming. At the end of the day, what we are very proud to tell a lot of local citizens is that farmers is also a profession. So, unlike what you think about farmers, right? What they do today is really scientific. So they're really in some way become a natural scientist. So we're very proud to tell a lot of kids that, they could begin to look up to farmers again. Next one. And back to the public spaces, right? We begin also another smaller project. This one is actually quite interesting. We have a lot of road, a lot of highways, a lot of high rises in Hong Kong. So sometimes it's very difficult to turn a road, turn a highway into a park. And so what we end up doing is that we try to put all this like mobile landscape into the design. What I meant by that is that we will build seating, we will build pavilion, we will build plant, but all of them are actually on the wheels. So you actually see at the bottom of this like planter, right? They're actually, everything is installed on the wheel. So what we do with them is that we can roll all of them onto the road and temporarily turn the road into a park during the weekend. So in this way, you almost have a mobile like urban park that can actually turn up and then disappear during the weekday, but on the weekend, they instantly turn any urban setting into a public spaces. Next one. Because we're in Hong Kong, we like Chinese food. So when you actually kind of look at the design of it, in some way we were kind of making fun of the ourselves by making this pavilion looks almost like the dim sum basket that you will see from famous like Chinese dish. But at the same time, this is also a very fun and sustainable way to kind of tie the urban setting in the whole like the food and Chinese culture into the neighborhood. Next one. And at night, Hong Kong is a 24/7 city, right? So the park normally stay open during the daytime, but we also think of and find a new way to actually make all this like mobile landscape into a electrical devices, so that like they're powered by battery. So in some way, all this like plant, not only they're movable, but at the same time they could actually be lighting up at night, and you don't need to plug them in. You just have to kind of charge them with the battery, and then they will just like instantly turn any public spaces into a park. Next one. And very lastly, I just find it really lovely when people were able to kind of like wander through them into on the road or in any urban setting. So in some way, that's also related to what I said at the beginning, right? Finding a moment in Hong Kong that we could really celebrate although they could be very tiny, but the meaning and the sustainable impact could be like significant. So thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you for taking us with you to Hong Kong and having us experience a little bit of what's it like there and your wonderful designs. I'm sure there will be some questions later after we are done. For those who are joining now a little bit later, let me just remind that we are at the Inspireli live talk number 11 with the topic of modern Asian architecture, having presentations from Malaysia, Japan, Hong Kong, and South Korea. So this brings us to the third guest and the speaker to present his designs. So I would like to ask Mr. Ryusuke Kozio, could you come in and share with us your designs and your challenges and specifics of Japan?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me? Can you well? Добрый день, добрый рано. I once lived in Prague for 5 years, so I do love the beautiful city and the country. I'm quite happy to be here with you. Guys, this is Kozio here. You can call me Kozio, Mr. Kozio, Kozio-san, which is popular with Japanese. It's my family name. My first name, Ryusuke, may be difficult to pronounce, so you can try to call me Luke. That's my Starbucks name, which, by the way, works very well.
Thank you.
It may not mean Luke Skywalker, but hopefully Saint Luke, the Apsu, who is a patron saint for science and art, which should work with architecture. Well, I'm a Japanese architect, currently working in Singapore. I belong to a Japanese main contractor, in other words, design builder, for more than 33 years, for 60% of which I've been working outside Japan. 15 years and 9 months in Europe, such as Germany, the Netherlands, the Czech Republic, Poland, etc. And 4 years and 2 months now in Singapore. Today I'm showing you 2 projects in Singapore, Europe, not in Singapore, and 1 in Japan. So the first slide, please. Okay. The first one is the one that I worked for at the beginning of the century in Germany. The Research and Development Center is located near Frankfurt am Main, Deutschland, which is one of the first projects that used a timber curtain wall system in this scale. Special features are in the envelope of the building, facades and the glass roof with a highly insulated and glare control system. Even for this kind of very simple solid functional building, I try to place a little natural taste. Okay, next slide, please. The second one is located in Kolín, the Czech Republic. This was the biggest private investment project at the time in the Czech Republic, where Toyota Motor and Peugeot Citroën Group formed a joint venture company to produce small type cars, namely Toyota Aygo, Peugeot 107, and Citroën C1. I hope some of the audiences in the Czech Republic and Central Europe may have encountered those products from this plant on the streets in their countries. For this Toyota Peugeot Citroën automobile car assembly plant project, namely TPCA in short, I was working as a member of Toyota Motor project team to lead all design procedure, which includes setting design criteria and goals, and design development, as well as design administration and supervision of the several contractors. The entire building, as you can see, is quite functional, but at least I try to express the character of the plant, the 3 brands, so triad. So I place such an exhibition platform, you can see on the right top photo, having the 3 steel tube structure with the tensile roof covering. It's a little pity that I just learned that the plant became Toyota Motor Manufacturing Czech as of last year. So no more 3 brands. Sorry for that. Next one, please. On the third one is from Asia, Japan. Shion-in is the head temple of Jōdo-shu sect of Buddhism, which is one of the biggest ones of Japanese Buddhism society. The project commemorates the 800-year anniversary of the founder of the sect, whose name is Honen, also called as Wajin. which is the origin of the name of the building. On the left-hand side photo, the photographer stood on the main gate of the temple. So at the back of him, there's a huge temple premise. Looking down the approach on the right-hand side, over there, you can see a city center. So this new building named Wajun Kaikan is a hotel with several facilities such as event hall, restaurant, and small museum, and so on. Based on the keywords such as simplicity, calmness, and dignity, the frequent use of natural materials such as lime plaster and ceramics contributes to the ornament-free and timeless design of the guest house. The main approach to the, would you go back to the photo, please? The main approach to the big temple premise, which you can see on the left-hand side photo, the main approach to this temple was also renewed in this project and gives a modest but important approach from the busy city area on the back side, on the front side, to the sacred temple area on the mountain side. So this hotel is open to the public, not only to the believers of the Buddhism sect, and it is closely located to a lot of tourism attractions of Kyoto, such as Kiyomizu-dera and so on. So when you have a chance to visit Kyoto, please don't miss visiting this temple together with this building and the approach. So that's it. Thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you very much. Oh, that's great. You greeted us in Czech. That was really nice. Wonderful. Yeah, I would like to now call in our last speaker, our guest, Bae Byung-gil. If you could come in and have a presentation on your topic and tell us what's it like in your country. Bae, I don't think we hear you. Can you unmute yourself? Here we go. Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Bae Byung-gil, a Korean architect. Thank you for invitation. As in my opinion, it is not easy to introduce about the Korean modern architecture. As most countries do, this Korean architecture has made many changes since 2000. It's the architects themselves and had the opportunity to reflect on the past and thought about how to prepare is for the new 21st century. So what I can tell you about modern Korean architecture is that the architects interest in many areas, and the various architectural theories and the design approaches that are being made. And we are making a new social stature and the identity of architects in our society. So I'd like to introduce my project today based on the interest in my personal architecture. It's the first work to introduce is Kukje Art Gallery. It's located in the center of Seoul city. And it was my first work completed in 1992. The second one is Hagije. Hagije is a private house located near Baegun Lake in the Oyeong city. It's completed in 2003. And finally, the Kimcheon City Museum of History of Culture was designed as winning project in 2015. Its firstly, its Kukje Art Gallery is located across the Gyeongbok Palace, which was built in Joseon Dynasty. This existing building on the site was newly made into an exhibition space. It's through extension and the renovation. So I wonder which part of existing building will be transformed by how much. Another question was about the spatial identity. Yes, when housing and office functions were transformed into an art gallery exhibition space in existing buildings. The change in shape and the space was designed to integrate the building into one by setting a box-shaped mediating space in the middle of the two existing buildings. Yes, and in recognition of time, some architectural elements were left as they were before. Yes, and some expressed the overlapping and the continuity of time with elements that added or deleted new forms. The Kukja Art Gallery made a new attempt to break the stereotype of a general architectural form and space, rather than following the street order. It attempted to change the urban street is various dynamic and symbolic forms. Such attempt have adopted the individuality and diversity of architecture in cities. This is Korea's first case of this constructivism in architecture. Sorry. Secondly, the Hagije expressed my idea that nature, humans, and architecture should go beyond the relationships to ethics in aesthetic overshading. Hagije is a private house. It's with 2 stories. Yes, can you change to another slide? Mariana, can you change to another portrait? Yes, okay, good. The Hagije is a private house with 2 stories. The total floor area is about 330 square meters. And it is family house for 5 people. There was traditional hanok in its location, and the new residential space was created by applying the natural viewpoint. It's of the main concept of hanok. It's the nature has always wanted to be itself, and has been already, anywhere recognized as superior to humans. I thought that the nature and the humans are inseparable from each other. However, humans have recognized the nature as an object to be used and to satisfy desires without considering the will of nature. As a result, environmental destruction and pollution began attack to humans. It's because nature was no longer tolerable. So the relationship between man and nature emphasized the human ethics in architectural behavior is for coexistence and symbiotic relations. Finally, the Kimcheon City Museum of History and Culture was selected 2015 architectural design competition. Yes, can you change to another one? Next one. Yes. The size is 1 basement floor and 3 stories building, and the total floor area over 5,241.15 square meter. And the main external finishing materials are aluminum sheet and exposed concrete. The location near to Jikji Temple, in very famous temple in Kimcheon City, and the site conditions have 2 natural slopes in 2 different directions from the mountain behind. Visiting the museum is unusual in modern life. This is a cultural space. I thought that the architectural expression different from the daily life. This was abundant of space. It was planned as a workway of about 40 meters. And I thought boundary made the difference between daily and non-daily life. The method of slowly entering the underground space through tunnel-like bamboo pressed beds. On the both sides of access road was planned in a symbolic space. It's for human health architecture, natural lighting, and natural ventilation were considered is for entire building. It's the center of the main hall on the basement floor is designed as important emotional space. It's where natural elements such as sunlight, moonlight, cloud, rain, and the snow meet visitors by connecting to the sky. It's like James Turrell's work. There's various floor exhibition halls. It's multi-purpose auditorium, civic participation, and the rest area were planned in connection with nearby parks. That's it. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you, Bay. Thank you very much for an insight into South Korea.
You're very welcome.
Wonderful. Carol, would you like to say something?
Yes, it was really great, and I have several questions, so I will use my power. And I will ask. But at the beginning, I would like to say that maybe the first thing I have to say that we invited Luke to be here, joining us from Japan, and you are responsible for the building, which is already only 10 kilometers far from my house. So it's I'm in Kutahora.
Oh, Kutahora. Okay, great.
That's amazing. Yeah. So this is the absolutely example of globalization. Yeah, Japanese architect, and he's responsible for the house close to my house. Yeah. So right. This is, and I was absolutely not aware of it. So it's a surprise for you, Luke?
No, surprising, nice, surprising nice. Yeah. I love the city as well. Korea is nice. Yeah. I spent 2 years there almost. Yeah, for this building. I did enjoy it.
So next time you have to be my guest in my house, because you will check the factory and you will be in my house. However, now back to the topic of this event. I made some notice, and for example, Vicky was talking about mental health and public space. Ryan, you were talking about identity, about the culture, nature, and adaptation, and Luke, you were talking about simplicity. And as you maybe know, whenever we are meeting in, for example, with Bae on some conferences, we are talking about sustainability. I think, because maybe you know that I'm architecture psychologist, I think that sustainability is a wrong word, because what we would like to sustain, we are talking that we are losing culture, we are losing identity, we are losing mental health, we are losing public space, and we are trying to solve this problem, and we are talking, please stay, sustain, but it's not. No, we lost it already. We need to say no. In case you have a factory and you cannot be sustainable, you need to be more for future, in the new technologies. You need to grow up, because when you are in sustain, you are dying. Yeah, because without promotion, without new ideas, you are going down. So maybe it's a time to stop to say stay sustain, because it's like when you are in marriage and you dream about something how it was in the beginning. But we lost already in the nature. We lost everything, and we need to rebuild it. And I think that architecture need to find the new name for this journey. So my question to you, Ryan, because you use this sustainability word, do you have any, reaction on my speech attack to this word? It's yours now.
All right. I do address your concern on the so-called the keyword sustainability, but in our education, or I would say our culture here, sustainability is not just looking into the green sustainability. We are looking into the social. That's why I'm bringing in culture. I'm bringing identity here, because in Malaysia, we are a multi-ethnic city. Just for all of you here who don't know, in Malaysia, Singapore, we have culture like we have Chinese, where I'm the Chinese. We have Malay, we have Indian, we have also indigenous people. So everyone are from different background, different identity. I can speak up to 5 languages in my country. So we all have different multi-language. So this is the thing that we are trying to say on identity and culture, which in general, one picture, we call it social sustainability. We try to so-called sustain, or I would say maintain, remain, represent, preserve what we have. Because along the way, I can't even talk my grandmother dialect. I'm sure all of you here, you will have your own dialect, right? So along the way, when we grow up, when the technology evolved, we would start to, speak the important language. Everyone will know how to speak English, but maybe your own dialect, you already forgotten. So that is the thing that I'm trying to do in architectural way. And this is the sustainability keywords that I'm addressing here, not on the green technology, but on preserving or sustaining the social part of our culture. I hope I answered and defend for what I presented just now. Thanks.
Oh, you are brave. I love it. No, definitely, I agree with you. Okay, so, and what about you, Vicky? What do you think about this topic?
Here in Hong Kong, sustainability in many ways, how to put it, Hong Kong is relatively sustainable, right? 95% of people are actually going to work using MTR, which is the subway here. So not a lot of people are actually driving, right? So by living very closely to one another, we are actually creating this like relatively sustainable way of living. But at the same time, by building so much repetitive high rises, we created a lot of different problems, right? We lost like cultural identity, like you mentioned. We are losing mental health. A lot of people are actually suffering from stress, a lot of like mental issues in the middle of the city. The happy index of Hong Kong continued to decline. People are not very happy here for multiple reasons. So in some way, like sometimes by doing all this like small project here and there, putting a farm in the middle of the city, putting some planter, in the middle of the city, in some way they may seem very small, but the way I see it is that they're trying to heal. I'll give you an example about how this really works from a ecosystem point of view. The urban farm that we inserted is very small, but we don't use any pesticide. It's fully organic, right? In the first week that it opened, I attracted a lot of birds, a lot of insects, bees, butterflies, frog, a lot of animals from the neighborhood that I don't even know that they existed in the beginning. They all came to the farm. So in some way, just like very little changes, not only benefit human being, but I immediately actually turned the farm into an ecosystem that actually I didn't know it even existed in the city before. So in some way, I almost wanted to give people like hope that like, yeah, you may have to do a lot in order to reverse climate change. But at the same time, sometimes this very little thing that we add to the city are actually almost like creating a much bigger impact that we as architects may not actually foresee, like including all those like animal and insect that I'm able to attract. So to kind of answer the question, it's like I may or may not be able to do too much as an architect, right? It involves a lot more people than us as architects to really trigger much bigger changes. But at the same time, I felt like our power is still very powerful. We could do project in things that we don't like, and we will be able to promote changes and things will come in a very unexpected way and sometimes in a very positive way.
It's thank you, and I have in my mind maybe another word, and it's responsibility. Yeah, maybe you are talking more about it. Yeah, and however, Bai, what about you with this topic? Unmute yourself. Bai. Aha.
I should pronounce B.
Maybe you have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yes, now
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, thank you. It's I think the system and the powers of government is very important. It's because so many architects is wanted to make sustainable architecture and zero energy for the, it's to save the expense of the using or the control of the building. Is they have saved all energy. I think that's important. So it's made by as government to make they think about that's very important for the future, for the next generation. So I think it's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And maybe I would like to give some words to Ernest Stefani, professor from Metropolitan University of Tirana. Ernest, can you switch on your video?
Yes, I'm trying. Thank you so much, Karel, for inviting me, and thank you also to Marianne. And thank you also to all the guests that presented. This was such an interesting event. I don't know how it came together, because nowadays nothing can compete with a good YouTube video of your favorite architect. But the way it was organized and all these insights together from the architects present, it made it very interesting and very insightful that I don't say it just for saying, but I was not following it with so much attention for ages. Basically, this is really something very interesting I've heard in the last 2 or 3 years. So I want to ask in fact, I want to ask to the architect. I hope I'm spelling the name correctly, because it's always difficult to pronounce it, and it's sometimes to Mr. Byung-kil, who presented his.
Yes, you can say
yes, I hope I said it right.
Yeah,
so I wanted to say if your first project of deconstructivist architecture, which was very interesting, in fact, of 1992, how you revise it now 30 years later. So what do you think happened with deconstructivist architecture? Because this was some postmodernist movement, very different from what was before. And as Lyotard says, postmodernism is the end of grand narrative. So basically everybody has its own narrative. So if you think of other styles and you see a kind of revisiting, a kind of cycle, if you will, and suddenly you see that modernism was borrowing a lot from Asian and Japanese architecture, and you find this return to things, return to tradition. How you see that with deconstructivism? Like, do you think this really is it now out of fashion, or is it like the end with it, and will it be some reevaluation of it in the time? Yes, please.
Yeah, it's a very important and very difficult question. So it's I think the construction architecture is, you said, is like the postmodernism, but very different between the architecture, deconstruction of architecture, and another field of literature, or it's another areas. It's deconstruction means it's make the new form or new space is for the human's life in future, and this influenced from the world. First World War and the Second World War. That's the question about the human is the smart or is very rational animal. Yes, but there is why the smart people kill each other or something like that. So we didn't make the rational and the logical theory, or as you said, like the international style. As we need is more is creative words. That's the one of my answer. And you said, and why you returned is like Japan, return to the traditional. There is tradition period in the before the 2000. It's I think the 20th century is moved to the 21st century. And so we need it's very symbolic period of from 20th century to 21st century. It's just one time. It's yesterday is 1999, December 31. But tomorrow is new 2000. It's one time. It's this very symbolic. It's the Korean people. It's the that's the beginning to reflect of the past architecture and the most important architecture in our history. So we reflected the past or our traditional architecture. So it will be made based of our traditional architecture shape or space. After that, it's like the new layer of time is for the new architecture. And also I felt so when I designed the something like the deconstructive the shape or space. It's after that it's our spirit empty. It's my mental is not full list of the emotion. You see, so I want to make the based on our traditional architecture. After that, I wanted to make the Western developed the theory or the technology and to make a mix. And I want to make the new architecture. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was very confused because you're very, very difficult question about this, but I didn't expectation of like your question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much for the answer. It was really,
I will leave.
It was really interesting. Yes.
Sorry, I will leave my email, and you can send your question as I will reply or response to your answer.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Really.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Very kind. I would like to ask if any of our students who are here had a question, who would like to ask something.
It's for me? To me?
Let's see. Let's see if anybody from our students here will have a question. So leaving that open invitation to them. Let's see if there are any brave ones.
Maybe we have to ask directly Elsa Abe Ramia. Can you hear us? Elsa?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
Hello. Do you have any questions
Hello.
to our guests? And please switch.
Yes, I would like to thank them for this amazing topic about sustainable architecture and modern architecture. But when the Zoom started, I couldn't see the share screen. So later on, I was able to see it on Inspireli live talk. But maybe I missed the first guest. I couldn't see the screen sharing, but for the other guests, it was possible for me to watch the screen. It was an amazing talk, and it's a great opportunity to be part of it and to attend all your questions. And that's it for me. Thank you very much for this amazing talk.
Okay. So I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question to Ryuk. Once I remember I was joining a conference, and it was in Azerbaijan, I think, if I remember well. And I met there an architect, Yunia Ishigami. And yeah, I think that you know him, because he's absolutely crazy great architect. I will share for a while only one of his project I really love. Is this artificial forest in Japan. And my question is, because I know I'm absolutely sure that you know him as well. Tell me, Luke, how is that possible that in Japan you can create such a, how to say, pieces of art in architecture? Because, for example, in Europe, I cannot imagine anything like that to do, because of the money, because of the courage of investors. So do you have any idea about it? How is that the difference between Japanese, I don't know, government and European or the rest of the world?
That's an interesting point. So let's speak from sustainability. Sustainability is a kind of matter of fact to all Japanese architects and Japanese people, because there are a lot of old buildings. As you may know, the oldest wooden structure, the building, is more than 1,200 years ago. So, and also my project, Shion-in, had also 400 years building behind my building. Mm-hmm. So have some long-lasting building is also always the primary goal of the project for many Japanese architects. So that means we need to have simplicity, timeless design, and ornament-free, but quite solid structures you need. So in a way, we are trying to live with nature. So we don't want to break up, or we don't want to disturb the nature, but we want to live with nature. So try to sustain as long as possible. Living with nature is our primary goal. So we do want to have some very soft core living with nature things. So as you just showed the example of Junya Ishigami, he also considers some good relationship between the architecture and the nature. Those two should not stand out from the others. So that's a very basic mindset of almost all Japanese architects. So try to live with nature and try to not stand out from nature, which is totally different in Singapore, where I'm now in. And architecture must stand out, strikingly stand out. So it's very different from my favorite things. But okay, it's a society like this, and the Singapore has to do that way, so that Singapore should be recognized well from the world. So it's a kind of strategy of the country as well. But Japan, since we have such long traditions, especially for architecture with long traditions, we do want to respect our tradition, and we do want to live longer together with nature. That is the principle of our activities.
Okay. No, it's amazing because me as an architect from Europe, I really feel that there is a big difference, between opportunities for Japanese architects or Asian architects and what we have here. And maybe I can ask Ryan. What about you in Malaysia? Because tell us how is difficult to how to say. I would like to say to sell, but it's not the proper word. How to make investor to build something what is how to say nice, different, new than the rest of the architecture. How difficult it is, yeah, to find a proper appropriate people to invest to such an architecture.
I think to find an investor or people who pump in money for a development, the first thing that is important is to let them know why we want to do it. What makes it different if we do it this way. Second thing is to give them a confidence, so that they pump in this money, they invest in our country or they invest in doing this development, they have a confidence to get back the things that they want. Everyone pump money, and everyone spends something, they definitely are looking for some return, unless they are doing charity work. But most of the time, the building is not. So what we are looking here is we need to understand their needs, their requirement, whether is it in terms of ROI, return of investment, is it financial, is it reputation, or is it they are looking at publication. Example, IKEA or IKEA, where they're developing in every country for their warehouse. They want people to know about their brand, correct? So like Coca-Cola and all that, they're building factory all over the world. Why they want to do it? Not just because they are, they want to develop local flavor. They are also trying to bridge their culture into different area. If you are drinking, or just take McDonald's as an example, eating McDonald's in European country and in Asia country, you will be surprised the menu is different. Why? Because they are adapting the culture of the country or the nation.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that we need to look into it. Culture, identity, as I mentioned always. Second thing is what would they really want to get out of this? I think most of the investors want to pump in the money, not only on the money, but also on their image. They want people to know more about them. So I think that's the thing that we need to look into it if we are looking for more investors to even come into any country.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's absolutely agree, and it's again the same like everywhere in the world. We have to keep this in our mind. Okay, I would like to ask Faisal. Are you here with us? Faisal Hossain? Faisal, are you there? I would like to make some students to ask, but they are afraid, I think. Maybe.
Hello there.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm here.
Welcome here.
Sorry, I'm in a dark environment.
Do you have any questions to our guests?
Yeah, I have one about the automobile project that I saw.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I missed the point. How old is that project, please?
Pardon?
How old is that project? Hello.
How old is this project?
You mean the Toyota one?
Yeah.
Colin?
Yeah.
Well, 20 years ago.
The automobile project.
2014, it was built, completed to produce the automobiles. And just last year, they changed the organization. Toyota acquired the building, and they produce Toyota only now.
Okay, so I want to know about the there might be another pandemic situation in the future, right? Like the one we have all faced in every world, in every country. So my question is, what type of problem are we going to face in this type of project when another pandemic issue arises?
Okay, there are a lot of aspects to be considered. In principle, we better not to close the building. recently, in the last several decades, a lot of buildings, especially office buildings, industrial buildings, are closed and air conditioned, mechanically ventilated. So this is quite, let's say, dangerous station now. If we have some properly naturally ventilated buildings, you can see a lot of Southeast Asian countries, a lot of naturally ventilated buildings. So that's a principle of the building, I believe. So we should try to change our mindset to have different type of building, not so rigid, closed buildings, but more porous buildings, having closer to the nature and the atmosphere. So that's one way of understanding or mindset to consider the future architecture. However, for the factory building, say, we need to have some closed part, somehow sensible part to maintain. But the rest of the space where people can gather or employees can enjoy or eat and chat, those space should be as open as possible. It is possible in Southeast Asian countries here. Not possible in Czech Republic because in winter you're too cold, so it's not possible. But we need to consider somehow natural station, more natural station than the closed stations. Now, something like this. And we can also consider the beginning stage of early modern buildings. At the start of the 20th century, the old modern buildings are focused on hygienic, health, and people's activities and happiness. It's quite humane buildings. We should go back to humane understanding of the buildings. So we should be humane and market. We should provide humane buildings and environment. That's what I believe.
Perfect. Thank you. I think, Faisal, it was an excellent question.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody who has been here. I think our time is slowly coming to the end, but Karel, you had one more announcement here.
Yes, I have. However, I have here one question from Barry Whitmore from AIA. Barry, would you like to say it personally, or should I do that?
Go ahead, Carl. Go right ahead. You can pose the question.
Okay. So the question is that today's firm are looking at your soft skills and on not only your hard skills. What a unique skills can you bring to the discussion? Communication skills, language skills, history, culture, and tradition, climate, and so on. So that's the question. What kind of soft skills are the most important, do you think? So Luke, maybe start. What do you think?
Wow.
Yeah.
You must be communicative. For all age groups and all race groups. So whoever they are, you have to be communicative, to share your mind with others and to try to learn from others. So that's the only thing you have to do as a principle of our daily life so that we can learn how the architecture works for the people.
Okay, good. Vicky, what about you? What kind of soft skills you need to, or you recommend to improve?
I think it is the fact that they can actually work in a community. I think it will be very important. I do a lot of nonprofit projects, and we hire a lot of students as well. And I think some people have the heart to help people. As long as they have that heart to really try to make the community better, they really will always do a fantastic job within our profession. So I think that heart for serving the community is very critical.
Okay, Ryan, what about you?
I think the soft skill would be definitely communication skill. But before you can communicate, the most important thing is a listening skill. You have to listen, you have to be empathy, you have to understand what people need. So I realize a lot of, I would say, Gen Z or the student, they tend to overlook on this skill. They do whatever they want. They do the fantastic design like star architect, but they've forgotten the fundamental thing, which is what the client or the user really need. So I would really think this is the most basic and fundamental thing that the architecture student or anyone who are in design have to understand this. Right?
Absolutely agree. It's really great. I like it. But what about you?
Well, it's, already we have the common language. It's like the architecture. It's architecture. As there is another language. So we can see that the shape or space, I think it is our language.
Yeah.
So it's how to understand inside of the architecture. That's very important. So we have to work very hard or sometimes research the essential of nature or architecture and the space, something like that.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I would like to, at the close end of this discussion, I would like to again share my screen, and I would like to invite all students all around the world to don't forget to submit your school projects. As you can see here, there is already only 35 days to upload your projects, and we have already 2 competitions. One is the Inspireli Awards, where you can upload your school project. Doesn't matter what kind of topic is inside, what kind of proposal you are trying to, or issue you are trying to solve. And important is to say that the first prize this year is what you desire. So it means the entire Inspireli community will try to satisfy your personal demands. Of course, everything will depend on our abilities, but we will do our best, because we are different people from different continents, different countries, and maybe we can help you when you ask for something what is really important for you. The second competition this year is a Beirut port competition, and I'm really proud that I think that more than 100, 200 universities are working together with us on this very, very catastrophic scenario to really contribute from the students' proposal to help Lebanese people to figure out that they are not alone, that because of the COVID situation now, because of the war, but nobody forgot that Lebanon has catastrophe, they have a big economic issue, and we are here to help them, at least with our proposals. So these are 2 competitions. They are already very close to termination. And I would like to use this opportunity to make you think about sharing your ideas and to join our international community. Because what I would like to highlight now, all the finalists and the winners, then they have the AIA recognition, and then they can really start to think to being a part of AIA, which is one of the most prestigious organization. And I'm really proud that I am in the board of this organization, because our aim is to educate not only young architects, not only students, but we are educating the professionals, because I think that when you are an architect, you need still be open and educate yourself and then educate the others. So this was from me. So now, please, Mariana, it's your turn to finish everything.
Great, thank you, Karel. Yes, of course, we invite everybody and remind to everybody, definitely sign up. There's all the information on our website. And for those who joined later, let me just remind that we have been at the Inspireli Live Talk number 11. Today's topic was modern Asian architecture, and it would not be possible without our partners supporting Inspireli, that is Reiners Aluminium, Ravak, Phoenix, Ecophone, and Grohe. And we are also very grateful for having the cooperation with the AIA. Thanks to all the panelists. Thank you kindly for coming and showing us your designs. It's been a real pleasure, very interesting information, definitely lots of thought for mind. I hope, a lot of food for mind to say. So thank you for coming. I know it's late in your countries in Asia. It's only 3:30, but I know in Prague, I know it's way later in Asia. So thanks again, one more time, for everybody taking time. And you have been watching Inspireli Live Talk number 11, and we will be looking forward to seeing you in the next one in about a month. So have a great day, have a great night or morning, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.